Hi, welcome to another episode of the Paige Doodle Club. I'm Mike Paige, and today we are going to be drawing a Bellamy eagle. These are the folk art eagles that you've probably seen above a doorway. You've seen them around. They're wooden eagles, usually holding like a shield or arrows or a flag. They're super cool. I'm going to teach you how to draw an eagle in that style. You're going to want your drawing supplies and make sure you're not afraid to make mistakes. The important thing is that you make your mark.
Park Street Books is proud to sponsor the Mike Paige Doodle Club. Find them locally at 504 Main Street, Medfield, Mass. Open Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Or visit parkstreetbooks.com. No matter where you are, that's parkstreetbooks.com.
All right, to start my eagle, I want to be right near the middle of the paper at the beginning, and we're going to start with the head. And I'm just going to draw something kind of like that. He's going to be looking up and towards the left. And this is actually the top of his head. His beak will be over here. From here, I'm going to... You can choose how you make your beak. I'm actually going to give you two options right off the bat. If you want a more aggressive beak, it'll be curved in a little bit like that. But since this is a Bellamy eagle, I don't want mine curved in quite so much. Bellamy eagles will typically be a little bit square on the front of the beak. You're probably wondering, why is it a Bellamy eagle instead of just an eagle? So Bellamy eagle is the name of this type of sculpture because the guy that made them famous was John Bellamy. He's kind of like, if you're studying painting and you're looking at Monet and Van Gogh and all those guys, if you're a wood carver, John Bellamy is a name that is up there within like the pantheon of the all-time greats. So he was around in the 1800s, grew up in Maine, lived a few different places around New England. But John Bellamy is kind of the ultimate for these eagles, which is why they're known as Bellamy eagles, because nobody back then was as good as John Bellamy. He came up with his own style of doing them. One of the features was a pretty squared off beak. Another thing that makes the Bellamy eagle a Bellamy eagle is the way the wings are. He really created a large cutout area in the wing that makes the wing look more realistic and like it's even taking flight. And then we're going to leave a small gap in the beak. Often this would have like a flag in it, so you'll be able to add that in if you would like. So there we have our beak, and we're going to put the eye right over here. Another like telltale sign of a Bellamy eagle is a very deep gouge area right here around the eye. So he would really create the illusion of depth right here. And again, he's just better than most people at doing that. He was an incredible carver. Came up with his own style of doing it and kind of blew everybody else out of the water. Then what I'm going to do is, sometimes these eagles will have their head like almost like a dragon or something. Sometimes their head is craned down and around. That's not how I'm going to draw it, but just as an option for you, I'm going to be drawing it so that the neck is coming out this way, kind of like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and put one wing in so that it starts to take shape for you. I know sometimes if you're following along with a drawing, it's like, I don't see it yet. What I always tell people, if I'm working on something and they can't see it yet, I go, I'm not done yet. Or they say, that doesn't look like, I go, I'm not done yet. Give me a minute. But just in case you're following along and you're like, I don't see it, I don't know what in the world he's doing. Hopefully this will start to help it come together for you. This will be a wing coming over this way. Another wing will be going this way. You could almost argue that the U.S. Postal Service logo is kind of based on a Bellamy eagle. I suppose you could say, well, that's just because the bald eagle is our national symbol. True. But I would argue without John Bellamy, the Postal Service logo probably looks a little bit different than it does. Next, I'm going to add kind of just a small block here so you can see the tail will be over this way. And then I'm going to start to, you can decide. You can either have a banner coming out. A lot of times Bellamy eagles will have like a small at the beak, extending as it comes out, a banner coming along. Sometimes they'll have a flag. Sometimes they hold a shield. The postcard that I held up from the Peabody Essex Museum at the beginning is the U.S. Customs House in Salem, Massachusetts. This one is holding a shield. That's one of the fun things of drawing a Bellamy eagle, is you can kind of take it any direction you want. If you have not already seen it, there's an episode where I teach how to do ribbons and banners like this. So I won't go into too much detail on that, but just so you're aware, if you want to be doing more things like that, there is an episode completely for that. So I'm going to go ahead and make ribbons coming out because I think that's kind of cool. You can have them say whatever you want. Sometimes they say things like liberty and freedom. Sometimes they say in God we trust. Sometimes it might say Medfield, Massachusetts. It might say your name, whatever you want it to say. It's yours. I'm not going to tell you what's right. Again, part of the fun of doing these is, like, Bellamy eagle is kind of the style, but there's all kinds of ways to do it. My hand just got really shaky here and here. I don't know if you saw that. I think I had too much coffee this morning. I have a very strict, like, 1.5 to 2 cup maximum. If I go beyond that, I tend to get a shaky hand. And today I had 2 cups. Apparently I was like right at that threshold of what I can handle. All right, now for the really tough part. So if you're doing okay so far, awesome, keep up. If you're struggling so far, the next part is going to get a little bit trickier, so just bear with me. And again, don't be afraid to make mistakes. I'll do in pencil real quick kind of the overall shape that we want. Because again, if you're learning how to do this, it probably helps to have an idea of what you're aiming for. So we want 2 wings. Hopefully they're relatively symmetrical, roughly the same size. The tail will be sticking out down here. Now, each of these wings is going to be broken into a bunch of feathers, obviously. And I'm going to start out here. If you've watched a bunch of this show, you've heard me talk about kicking the pen out. Eagle wings, you're definitely going to want to kick the pen. So what I'm doing is I'm coming around. It's not quite a point, it's like just barely rounded. And then I'm going to kick the pen. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come down, kick the pen, And we're just going to keep doing this, trying to stick to that curve there. This one could have been a little bit pointier than it was. So growing up, I always thought these were like the coolest. I knew a few people that had these on their houses, and I was always like, why doesn't our house have that? That's so cool. Again, if you watch this show a bunch, you've probably heard me talk about Jim Sebring, my childhood hero. He carved one of these, and it was hung above his mantle. And anytime I have ever gone over to his house, I would marvel at it. And last summer, I was down hanging out with his son for a weekend of carving. And I said, Jody, I really want to learn how to draw, or how to carve a Bellamy eagle. It has always been on my list of things that I wanted to carve. I never tried one. So Jody said, great news, we can start one right away. So he taught me how to carve it, and I'm finally getting around to finishing it up. I gave myself a deadline of 1 more week. I'm going to have it done. But it's one of those things that I've always wanted to try one, and I never did. And we all have those things where, you know, life gets in the way and it's holding you back from the projects that you've been dying to do. Don't push it off anymore. Try to get those projects done. Find an excuse to get your projects back on the to-do list. Typically what I'll do here is put like the outer edge of the wing, have it darker. So I had mentioned that one of the things that makes a Bellamy eagle, like really a Bellamy eagle, this whole area, if it was carved, is like really scooped out so that this is towards you, and then the wood is really cut down into it along this line. So actually, if you're really going to town on this drawing and you want to color it in, this whole area here would be a bit darker from the shadow because it is further away. Or if you wanted to do shading here, you're more than welcome to. So these would be, what are these called? Flight feathers. And then we're going to need more feathers coming up this way. So what I'm going to do next, just like we did before, you're going to keep kicking in the pen out. And we're just going to make another line of feathers, maybe slightly smaller than the first line. And same thing coming this way. It's funny, I actually am really struggling doing these feathers coming this way. And typically, I have an easier time doing these feathers. But because I'm doing this on an easel and not on my drafting table, it is a very different experience. Then up here we can do some smaller, like you can even do quick little scribble ruffles. You don't even have to draw in every single feather. And then for the tail, we're going to eagle tail feathers are typically fairly broad at the end, and we're just going to have them slightly rounded. And this guy is going to have a flag draped at the bottom too. So I'm going to cut off the rest of his tail to have a flag hanging here. And for this, just like the ribbon here, you're just kind of doing some S shapes basically. You want everything to be a nice flowing curve. And then anywhere that you come to an edge, make sure that you've got a line kicking up. So if I curve it back here, that needs to connect. Something kind of like that. And then where it comes to an end, you need to come up. So we've got a flag kind of like that. I might switch to Sharpie real quick. I don't have a red marker here, so I'm just going to fill in the flag real quickly with some stripes. Hopefully you've got some markers by your side and you can do this exactly the right way. Oh, see, I'm always talking about making mistakes. There's one. I had a bend in the ribbon that I forgot to make a line up. Here's another one. You guys probably caught that as you were watching. I bet you were shaking your head like, this guy's telling me to make a line up every time I make a curve. He just made a curve, he didn't make a line up. You're right, fixed it. So I'm making all these stripes here, trying to get it right. This one I might just do like part of the stripe because it's already going around that curve. So I was talking about how John Bellamy was the guy known for these. His are actually so good and so sought after that they sell for like over $100,000 at auction if you're lucky enough to find one, I guess, and if you're lucky enough to have the money. But one of his larger pieces that he did, I think it was the one that was from the from a ship. I'm blanking on which ship it was. But one of his larger pieces sold for over $660,000, which is pretty crazy. But at the same time, it's a very large piece, and it's done by the guy that, like, you can't top John Bellamy's eagles, in my opinion. I don't think it was the USS Missouri, but now I'm really trying to remember what it was. So I'm just writing Liberty and Union on this one. You can write whatever you'd like. And as I'm going, I'm trying to kind of follow the top and bottom curve. So however you curved your ribbon is fine. Just try to keep your letters so that each vertical line is staying perpendicular. So if I still had letters out here, I would want them angled this way to follow that curve. I kind of cheated and chose a relatively even section of ribbon to do the lettering. This would actually have a flag pole kicked way out here, which I didn't do at the beginning because I wanted to demonstrate the wings, but now I'm kind of kicking myself for that. And it's got a very sharp, almost like a harpoon tip on the end, or a bow and arrow. And then we're going to drape the flag like this. And then you would want some lines coming down. The union of the flag would be right here. That's the blue part with the stars. I'm just going to kind of scribble over this with the Sharpie here to fill in some of those details and hopefully cover up the wing as much as possible. And the tricky thing is, as you've got a flag draping, the stripes are going to be doing all kinds of things. So it's like, you know, that first edge, you might have a nice clean edge, but the next one, it might do something kind of like this and run into a fold or a wrinkle, and you might not see the rest of that stripe until it's way over here. And your drawing will look more realistic if you are adding this flag in. It'll look more realistic if you don't have your stripes the same thickness all the way around. Because remember, fabric reacts very differently than other textures. So if you have a flag kind of bunched up like this, it is going to be doing different things. This first line that I have here, I'm going to have all of the stripes coming this way. But notice I'm not going up to the top yet because this is a fold in the fabric, so there will be a little break there. So I was careful to make sure that the fold in the fabric is represented as it gets further down. This would have been a good 4th of July episode, but I didn't think to do it then. And then I might make a little bit more of that line. There is our Bellamy eagle. I hope you enjoyed following along. Hopefully yours came out exactly how you wanted to. If not, double back, try it again. Everything's a little easier the second, third, fourth time you do it. I mentioned Jim Sebring in this episode, the guy that had one hanging above his mantle. As Jim Sebring always used to say about his carvings, the first 1,000 are the hardest. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. The important thing is that you're trying it and you're doing it. So get right to it. Tune in again next week when we will be doing a surfer. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.
Park Street Books is proud to sponsor the Paige Doodle Club. Park Street Books is an independent children's book and toy store. With nothing electronic in the store, Park Street Books encourages kids to read, play, and unplug. Find them locally at 504 Main Street, Medfield, Mass. Open Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Or visit parkstreetbooks.com no matter where you are. That's parkstreetbooks.com.